At my mother's 60th, right between the store-bought cheesecake and a toast she wrote herself, she laughed. "No wonder you're still single at 35. I smiled, set down the knife and said, "Actually, I've been married 3 years. There just wasn't a seat for you at the table. You're watching Revenge Files. Subscribe for a new twist daily." The room went quiet enough to hear the heat click in the vents. My step-uncle's fork hovered. My mother's smile folded like wet paper. She blinked once, twice, as if the word married needed time to land. "Who?" she finally asked, chin high like she was reading a verdict. "Luke," I said. "We signed at the Multnomah County Courthouse on March 12, 2021. He's a paramedic. Works nights. You've met him. You just decided he was my roommate." The word roommate used to be her favorite weapon. It let her press down without leaving marks. I kept my tone even. I kept my breath slow. My ring was a thin gold band I'd worn on a chain while stocking shelves at her bakery, June's Hearth, because she said jewelry in the front case looked tacky. No one moved. Then my mother laughed again, softer. "So you lied," she said. "Like a child, like an adult who sets boundaries," I said. She reached for the knife I'd put down and sliced the cheesecake as if it had wronged her. "Boundaries are for people who pay their own way," she said, plating a slice with too much force. That line was old too. I paid more than my way. I had receipts in a binder that still smelled like ink and heat. I also had the upstairs unit I'd renovated in her duplex on SE 41st, a place she loved to call hers when friends visited, and mine when the roof leaked. One problem: 2 days after that dinner, January 9, I found a notice taped to the upstairs door, 30 days to vacate. It was on copy paper, the kind she used for muffins and flyers, not official letterhead. My name was spelled right. That part stung more than it should have. She didn't call me. She didn't knock. She printed, taped, and drove away. I took a photo of the notice with my phone. Then I took another, with a ruler laid across the page to show scale. I learned that in my last fight with her, when she swore she never wrote the text that said, "Don't be dramatic, you can sleep in your car one night." Screenshots, measurements, date stamps, simple insurance. I sent the photo to Luke, who replied from the station, "Document everything. I'm off at 6. I sat on the stairs with my coffee and watched the morning turn the street gold. Our upstairs had cost me 4 weekends of sanding floors, 3 calls to an electrician, and $18,400 in materials. I had every receipt in plastic sleeves. I had texts from my mother saying, "Go ahead and fix the kitchen. We'll settle later." We never settled later. But then, my phone buzzed with an email from a realtor named Bronson in all caps. Excited to list SE 41 stones, it read. "Photo scheduled next week. Please ensure units are photo ready. Prospective buyers may tour." That was the part that pulled the string tight. I walked down to the bakery when the open sign clicked on at 7. The bell chimed. My mother stood behind the case, arranging almond croissants like soldiers. She looked at me like a customer she didn't like. "You taped a notice to my door," I said. "To my door," she corrected. "And it's not a notice, it's a courtesy. I'm selling." "You can't just evict me because you feel like it," I said. "Not with no lease, no cause, and a month's notice on printer paper." "You're month to month," she said, snapping a tong at a Danish. "No drama. You'll land on your feet. Or with your paramedic." I breathed in butter and coffee and old anger. "I've lived there 5 years. I paid for new plumbing after the freeze. I paid the property taxes last spring when you said cash was tight. I have a right of first refusal in writing." Her eyes flicked. "That letter lived in my binder. My grandmother June wrote it in blue ink during hospice. If the duplex is sold before July 2025, it said, Maya gets first crack at the upstairs at the assessed value, given she's kept taxes and repairs current for 3 years. June's lawyer drafted a clean version and called it a side letter. It wasn't in the recorded deed, but the letter had June's signature and the lawyer's, and my mother's scribbled consent at the bottom with the date. "You think that birdbath letter means anything?" my mother said. "It will once I record notice of it," I said. She laughed that little laugh that says she believes in winning by volume. "Record whatever makes you feel adult," she said. "Buy yourself a cupcake to celebrate, but you will be out by February 10. I left without a cupcake. I left with a bag of receipts and a plan. On the walk home, I dialed the county recorder's office. A woman with a calm voice explained exactly how to file a notice of interest in real property. "If there's a written agreement, you can record a memorandum," she said. "We don't judge validity, we just index it." Her tone had the weight of neutral machinery. I liked it, except I knew a notice alone wouldn't stop a sale if a buyer offered cash and speed. I needed leverage that cost time and money to ignore. I opened the second binder I keep for the bakery. When my mother asked me to help out during the pandemic, help became 18 months of opening at 5, baking, managing deliveries, and closing at 6 while she took long lunches and posted photos about building an empire. She called me a contractor to avoid payroll taxes. She paid me from the till when she felt generous. I tracked every shift in a notebook she never saw and a calendar she forgot I could print. Oregon's Bureau of Labor and Industries, BOLI, has a wage claim form that is boring and merciless. I filled it out line by line. Unpaid minimum wage. Unpaid overtime. Misclassification. I attached copies of her texts assigning me shifts. I attached a photo of the schedule sheet with her handwriting and my name across 6 days. I attached a photo of the contractor agreement she made me sign, downloaded from a template site with the wrong business name in one paragraph. Then I pressed submit. One problem: BOLI doesn't move in a day. The wheels grind at their pace. I needed something immediate. That afternoon, I walked into the City of Portland's rental services office and asked about utility shutoffs. The clerk slid me a flyer that looked like it had been printed in a basement. Landlords can't shut off power or water to force a move, it said in clear words. Penalties apply. I took a copy and put it in my folder even though my power still hummed. Luke came home at 6 with eyes like bruises. He kissed my forehead and listened to every detail. "We'll be okay," he said. "Start with the recorder tomorrow." We did. On January 10th, I recorded the memorandum of right of first refusal. The clerk stamped it. I paid the fee. I asked for a date-stamped copy and took a photo of the stamp on the sidewalk outside because I don't trust any single copy to keep me safe. 2 days later, the realtor emailed again. "Need access for photos Thursday 12 to 2, I replied with the recorded instrument number for my notice and wrote, "Access denied until we coordinate," in writing showing times. "Please note tenant protections." He called me 5 minutes later, voice 3 volumes too loud. "I don't deal with tenants," he said. "I deal with owners, then deal with the owner who can't sell what she doesn't clearly own," I said. "And while you're at it, read that recorded notice." He hung up. I breathed. Small victory. But then, I came home from the grocery store to find our power off and a text from my mother, transformer issue. "Utility says tomorrow." The downstairs lights glowed. Only our unit sat dark. I remembered the flyer. I flipped my binder to the utility tab and called the city enforcement line. The inspector who answered asked 2 questions. "Did anyone give you written notice of a planned shutoff? And is the downstairs on?" She arrived at 5, wrote notes, and took photos of the breaker panel in the basement where the upstairs switch sat off with a strip of painter's tape across it. The tape had my mother's handwriting, "Leave off." The inspector peeled it, flipped the breaker, and my lights woke up with a sigh. "By the way," she said, "we'll be sending a letter. There can be penalties. Keep your receipts in case you ran a generator or lost food." The fridge hummed like a happy dog. I almost cried from that sound. 2 weeks later, a letter with the city logo went to June's hearth and to my mother's P.O. box. It cited a violation for illegal utility shutoff and mentioned fines that could reach $500 per day if repeated. She didn't repeat it. Meanwhile, BOLI reached out. A compliance officer asked for a call. We spoke on January 26. I told her everything, including the days I opened alone, the nights I locked up after 10, the week my mother took a wellness retreat and texted me from a hot tub while I threw out burned batches. "Keep your logs tight," the officer said. "We'll schedule a conference. Except..." The realtor found a way to lean harder. He forwarded a signed listing agreement with my mother's signature and a target closing of March 1. He CC'd a title company with a familiar name. The email subject had 3 exclamation points. I recognized the title company because I used to drop off bakery boxes there during closings. The receptionist, Amber, liked cherry turnovers. I walked in with a fresh box the next morning and asked to speak with the escrow officer on the listing. She met me in the lobby, crisp and polite. I introduced myself and slid a copy of the recorded notice across the table. "We see it," she said, tapping her screen. "Our underwriter flagged it. We can't insure title until it's resolved." "Resolved how?" I asked. "Either the holder of the right releases it or we get a court order," she said, not unkindly. "You recorded first, so it's your move. I left the cherry box anyway." Escrow people remember kindness when deals turn sharp. Back home, Luke and I did math at our tiny table. We could buy the upstairs at the assessed value if the letter held. The assessment last spring was $214,000. We had saved $32,000. We could swing a small mortgage with his steady hours and my design contracts if the lender didn't mind a family mess. It was possible, but fragile. Then the mid-roll surge I didn't expect. A banker from a credit union called my cell to verify employment. He asked if I worked full-time at June's hearth. I said I used to help, unpaid. He paused. "We have a home equity application listing you as KEO applicant," he said. "We're missing your driver's license." My stomach dropped so fast I had to sit. "Send me the application," I said. He couldn't send the full file during review, but he read a line with my name, social ending in the right digits, and a forged version of my signature. The application date was 3 days after the birthday dinner. The property listed was the duplex. The requested amount was $60,000. I thanked him in a voice that didn't sound like mine and walked straight to the credit union on SE Division. A branch manager met me in a small office with a friendly lamp. She listened. She pulled the file. She printed 2 pages I was allowed to see, the signature line and the notary acknowledgement. The notary log listed Maya Collins, ID verified, Oregon DL, with a date I spent at my own apartment building, watching the inspector flip my lights back on. The signature looked like someone had tried to copy my checks with their left hand. The notary stamp belonged to a man whose name I recognized as my mother's friend, Ken, who loved to call me kiddo like I worked for him. "Forgery isn't drama, it's a felony." The manager said the word quiet. "If this isn't you, we will withdraw the application and file a report," she said. "I also need a sworn statement from you." I wrote a statement in thick black ink, hand shaking only once. I attached a copy of my driver's license and photos of my actual signature from my lease and bank card. The manager thanked me. She handed me a copy of the notary log entry. It felt like a brick I could finally aim. That night I wrote my mother an email with the subject title "Cloud plus wage claim plus fraud." I kept it short and clean. I attached the recorded notice, the city letter about the illegal shutoff, and the notary log entry with the forged signature circled. I CC'd the realtor, the escrow officer, and the BOLI compliance officer. I wrote, "We can resolve this 3 ways. 1. I exercise my right of first refusal and buy the upstairs at assessed value. 2. You deed me a 50% interest in exchange for a release and settlement. Or 3. We litigate, and I report the HELOC fraud formally. I would rather not go nuclear." "You have until February 5 at noon," she replied at 12:08 a.m., with a single line, "You are not my enemy, but you are ungrateful." The next morning, she called Luke to ask if he was tired of my drama. He calmly said, "Please direct all contact to Maya." She tried a softer tack. She came by with a bag of day-old scones and just wanted to talk like family. I kept my door closed and slid a note under it, "Communicate by email." The BOLI conference landed on February 2. The compliance officer led the call. My mother joined with the realtor in the background, and a man who called himself consultant. I presented my logs, dates, hours, tasks, texts. The officer asked my mother for payroll records. She said she didn't keep that kind of thing for family. The officer explained why the law doesn't care. Numbers stayed out of my mouth until they mattered. When the officer read the preliminary tally, unpaid wages and overtime for 18 months totaling $14,960, plus penalties that could push it over $20,000, my mother went silent. Then I dropped the forged application detail. "There's also a fraud issue with the home equity application that lists me as KEO applicant," I said, voice steady. "The credit union has withdrawn it and is preparing a report. I have the notary log. I did not accuse her. I let the facts sit like a concrete block on a flimsy table." The call ended with the officer promising a written determination within weeks and encouraging us to settle. "The penalties only grow," she said, almost kindly. February 5. At noon, my mother sent a proposal through the realtor. It was a performance, lots of words, little meat. Move-out extended to March 15. A small stipend of $3,000 in recognition of contributions. Release of all claims. No mention of the recorded right. No apology for the shutoff. No word on the forged application. I replied with a PDF on my letterhead that I designed in black and white because pettiness is free. Counter-proposal, it said. 1. Deed a 50% undivided interest in the duplex to me and Luke via quitclaim by February 12. 2. Execute a recorded exclusive occupancy agreement granting us the upstairs. 3. Pay $27,400 within 10 days to settle wage claims and city penalties exposure. 4. Provide a written retraction to the credit union acknowledging I did not apply for a loan. Upon performance, I will file a release of memorandum and withdraw my BOLI claim. It wasn't cheap. It also wasn't a bluff. She called and screamed. I let it ring out. She emailed and called me cruel. I forwarded everything to the escrow officer and the BOLI compliance officer. The title company sent a neutral email that said, "We cannot proceed while there is a recorded encumbrance and unresolved claim," neutral machinery again doing its gospel. But then, the downstairs oven at the bakery died. She had already ordered professional photos for the duplex. The realtor wanted something to sell, and he wanted it yesterday. Pressure makes strange allies. The realtor called me, voice smaller this time. If she deeds you half, he asked, will you release the notice? If she performs on all 4 points, I said. And if the deed includes both my name and Luke's. 2 days later we met at a lawyer's office my mother picked because she believed the wallpaper mattered. I brought Luke. I wore a plain sweater and felt my hand tremble only when I clicked my pen. The lawyer was the kind who smiles like a bank vault. He reviewed my grandmother's letter, the binder, the notary log, and the city letter. He cleared his throat at the last two. We can structure this as a settlement agreement, he said, eyes on my mother. You avoid a potential criminal complaint and a wage penalty order. You get marketable title on one half and can still sell your half later. Or you can roll the dice in court and see how a judge likes that notary log. My mother glared at me with all the old years in her face. Then she signed. She signed the quitclaim deed that conveyed a 50% undivided interest to Maya Collins and Luke Mercer, married. She signed the exclusive occupancy agreement that gave us the upstairs without interference. She signed a settlement check for $27,400, with a memo line that read wage settlement, and I saw her hand press down hard enough to dent the paper. She signed a letter to the credit union stating she had mistakenly submitted an application listing me as KEO applicant and requesting full withdrawal. She didn't say sorry. That word costs more than money where she lives. I signed the release of memorandum and filed it at the recorder's office that afternoon. I CC'd the title company. I emailed the bully officer the signed settlement and withdrew the claim with a clean line, matter resolved, payment received. She replied, acknowledged. And I pictured another neutral machine ticking. The realtor rescheduled photos. He sold my mother's half later, to an investor who liked steady rents and old neighborhoods. Our occupancy agreement kept the upstairs ours. We refinanced our half that summer and used the cash to finally replace the roof. When the crew tore off the last of the old shingles, a flock of starlings rose and turned together like a single thought. I watched from the street with a hand around my ring. At Easter, my mother tried for a quiet reset. She sent a text that said, "Family brunch? Keep it light." I went. I brought a salad because that's what peace looks like in rooms like ours. She didn't bring up the wedding. She didn't bring up the deed. She asked whether the paramedic liked night shifts. I said, he does. And let the word husband sit on my tongue even if I didn't say it out loud. The bakery keeps a framed bully poster near the register now. It lists wage rights in small print. Sometimes, when I walk by on my way to the bus, I see customers read it while they wait for coffee. The oven works again. The croissants look like soldiers. I don't go in unless Luke wants a cookie after a long run of calls. On our 3rd anniversary, which was also our 6th, we made dinner at home and invited the neighbors from downstairs. We ate on the restored porch we paid for ourselves. We lit the same string lights I'd bought on clearance the first winter I moved in. Luke asked if I wanted to wear my ring on a finger now instead of a chain. I said yes and slid it on like I was finally steady. People still say the word single like it's a verdict and not a season. My mother still loves a crowd and a microphone. But I learned the quiet power of receipts and stamps and small words that close big doors. The next time someone laughed at my life like it was theirs to narrate, I just smiled and let the facts sit. I used to think being invited made you belong. Now I know real belonging starts where you draw your own line at the table.